Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm going to apologize up front. I'm not a marketer and a presenter, right? I'm a doer. So, and I speak very fast. So if you've got questions afterwards, you can. So I know my male colleagues seem to have spoken a lot more slower and more articulate, but unfortunately I speak fast. So hopefully you can keep up. I think just to give you, I put together some slides, but I'm not really going to speak to the slides. You can read it or ask for it afterwards if you're really interested. But maybe just to give you a little bit of a background of Old Mutual, of Old Mutual and what our company is about and our challenges. I think similarly to what Samira said earlier on, we also went through a journey. We used to use a workflow solution called AWD. And at the time of that going out of support, we started saying we were looking to move more into a world of business process orchestration versus workflow. At the time, we also went through an RFP. AWD, which is now known as Chorus, we discounted right in the beginning of the process. We then took it further with Bizagi, Appian, and Pega, landed up with Bizagi as our business process orchestration tool. So that's how our relationship started 12 years ago with a much smaller company. But yes, I mean, that's what a relationship is, started. So the background in Old Mutual, our current challenges. So Old Mutual has got various products that we sold. We've got various segments. We deal with a mass market segment. We deal with a personal finance, which is basically your middle market type segment. And we deal with a wealth segment. We also deal with corporate and pension fund schemes, etc. So we've got a lot of different products and propositions. We cover risk products, so life cover, disability cover, severe illness, etc., etc. Also, obviously, funeral business, funeral policy is also quite a big thing in our mass market industry, and also investments. Our current challenge is that we have multiple engagement layers. Old Mutual is a financial services organization that has decided we want to keep branches. So I know many of our competitors have decided to close down branches. We still believe it's quite an important footprint because in many of the smaller towns, etc., people see it as if you have to close down that branch, Old Mutual's gone bankrupt. So it's also an image marketing thing. But a lot of our customers still enjoy it, believe it or not, face-to-face. And even if they have to stand in a branch, they like to go into a branch. So our current challenge is that customers in those segments could have products across those segments. So you could be a personal finance middle market customer, but you could have a funeral product in the mass market. And obviously, we've got the challenges of each of those segments have got their own product admin systems, etc. So that's why we really needed to take away that complexity from customers and how we service our customers, in a multi-pairs environment. I think that was our key challenge. I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm not speaking too fast, right? So, I mean, really, where were we? The current situation, and I think we've evolved over the last 12 years, and I'll tell you sort of our journey to date on where we've been and where we plan to go forward, is really about understanding that we had many different call centers. We had many different contact center numbers. So if customers phoned us, depended on the product, we would route them to that contact center. Likewise, if they came in the branch, we serviced some products, we couldn't service others. And we also had all our processes they had different rules. Again, our products sometimes could have different rules, processes, etc. And we had to really try and standardize that, simplify, and then automate. I mean, that's really the way and the approach that we have taken. So where we really wanted to be is, there were very key initiatives, as you know, in our economic environment. Our product prices need to be competitive, so we must make sure that we can service, similar to what you said, at the best low-cost experience that you can have, so that we don't have to load the prices of our products. A key strategy was also saying, although customers like to come into the branch, don't really like phoning contact centers, but some of them like to do that sometime. We also needed to start growing our digital channel because more and more customers were wanting to interact with us digitally. And so specifically COVID, I think COVID created that burning platform to say, we have to create a digital capability. We have created digital capability of having an app, web, and WhatsApp transactions. What we actually do is make sure that whatever we do in the channel and whatever engagement layer you provide, your experience is the same with Old Mutual. And I think that's our critical challenge. I think sort of getting there over time, but I think the critical thing is really around actually saying, whether you phone a contact center or a branch, or you go via an advisor, who we've also got an advisor channel that we have to service, that your requirements are the same, that your experience is the same, that your commitment is the same, that your cycle time that you make is exactly the same. So I think that's a critical challenge, and I'll explain to you how we've sort of used Bizagi to enable that. So what were the key drivers? Again, all of you in financial services, so you all know, you probably all got similar drivers, but the key for us was, how do we increase our point of contact resolution, especially when you're enabling digital channels and branches, and to reduce costs? It's a critical component. The other thing is that in financial services, what we had before in our back office was, I get something, I get an instruction in the contact center, I send it to a back office, one person captures one component, it goes to an authorizer, it gets done like that. So there were very many handoffs. Handoffs means more people obviously adds to our cost. We also are trying to improve our automation of processes. So there are various components. I think really as Bizagi, as the orchestration layer, we've used how far can we stretch it to orchestrate and to do automation. In other words, using the orchestration layer to go and say, instead of asking for requirements, can I get the data from a trusted source? If I can get it from trusted, how do I call that API? How do I orchestrate that till a point that I've got to send it to a human, or that I can send it to a robot? We're trying to mature that over time, now that we finally have upgraded to Bizagi PAS, which was quite an experience for us. I mean, as we said earlier on, we've got, we probably manage about 330,000 cases a day, and as I said just now, 40,000 transactions on our database per second, so it's big, and it was very, very risky for us to do the upgrade, but now that we passed that, we're also looking, saying, now can we leverage more of Bizagi to do more automation, reducing the need for robotics, and using the experience we've got from robotics. The other driver was also, we have had many duplicates technologies, so we have had quite a few workflow solutions, etc., and quite a few sort of solutions where we got data information. So really requirements management, et cetera, et cetera. How do we optimize our technology space? And how do we use the technology to stretch as far as possible, so we don't have to invest in 10 sets of technologies to meet our customer and advisor objectives. The other thing was obviously to try and improve customer experience. It's a critical component to us, because unfortunately, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to go buy a policy, right? So you've got to make sure the advisor's happy to sell the product, and that the customers, when they have to engage with you, they actually have a positive experience, because then hopefully they will buy more, okay? The other thing critical for us, to inform what's the next best thing, what's the next best action, what's the priority, how do you actually optimize and automate, what processes would you prioritize first? It's going to give you the most return on investment. So it could be volume driven, it could be value driven. So really around that was actually getting our MIS in place. So that was a critical component, which I think it's evolving. We haven't used ADA yet, so we haven't used the AI components. We really just wanted to do the upgrade and then look at that. But we use Bizagi very much to be able to inform us of our transactions volumes, and tell us, and to inform us on where we should be looking at our next area of optimization and automation. So in our organization, as I said, we've got very many segments. I think the biggest challenge, if any of you have got that problem, you seem to have a nice problem, because you've got a small organization where you've got with many people. When you have an organization with different heads in different segments, you've got many personalities, many opinions, etc., and that always becomes a challenge. So when we started, we said the first thing we do is, let's cut the immersion so we don't have the fights. Let's first, and it looks very simple to say, design 6 customer-facing principles. In fact, Alex and Scott were very much part of that. At that stage, they were actually contracting to our mutual. They obviously liked Bizagi so much, they left us and went to work for Bizagi, but besides the point. So it was really trying to get all our segments to align to what is absolutely our customer proposition. What are the principles you want to apply? Because that way, when you start getting into more detailed solution design, you can actually say, guys, remember we agreed on this principle. So you take the emotion and opinions out of it, because you've agreed on. So we really, and we started off with, like, everybody had many, many principles. So they went from 30 down, because we said 6 to 8 is the maximum that you can have. And Alex, you can remember we had some heated debates, but we actually got to 6 in the end. Likewise, we've done exactly the same where it came to the inward-facing principles. So again, We've got different people in different areas. We've got different skills. We've got our technology shops, our business analysts, our solutions, et cetera, et cetera. We also said, guys, it's critical that we also align with what are our principles on what we want to achieve as an organization. So we understand what we do from a customer's perspective. What do we actually want to achieve from an organization? Let's align to those principles. And that one we managed to get on to 5. So again, we've used Bizagi, as I say, as the orchestration layer across our segments. But because, as I said earlier on, our segments are different and our customers are different. So to get buy-in from the organization, we really had to sell the concept, because I think that the minute you say to a MSC and a middle market PF or a wealth segment, oh, we want to standardize, they're like, no, because you're going to deteriorate, I'm going to get a lower level of service, etc. My customer's different, they engage with us differently, etc. So we really focus on what do we do when we talk about our front ends, so our digital front ends. What's the experience that you want, whether it's in the digital front end or in the contact center, that you can configure. You can say, well, in a wealth contact center, I want a one-to-one relationship. I will always be Scott's CRM and I will deal with it. In a middle market, you might say, no, it's 1 to 5. And in a mass market, we say 1 to 30, for example. You can configure the experience that you want to have, across that. So it does give you flexibility of what you can afford based on the profitability of your product and of your segment. But then there are components that we're saying, but hold on, across those, there are certain standards. So although you can configure some of that experience, this front end may be green and this one may be blue and this one may be yellow. It's little things that you can configure to have a slightly different experience. But the reality is once you interact with us at a process level, a process is a process. So once you interact, how do you standardize that process? Standardize the requirements. So we don't say, well, we're different and we need this and that one's different. Your legislative requirements are the same. Your process requirement, there's a death claim, right? We need to know that somebody has died. We need to know to pay it to, and we need to know that this is actually your bank account. I mean, those are the critical things for us. So really about saying, how do we standardize those processes so that, and those things is where you get your economies of scales and efficiencies, because once you've standardized it, you can automate it. And that was, I think, was sort of our biggest challenge. So how did we go about it? Some of you, if you've ever seen any presentation of Old Mutual, you will know we refer to the rainbow screen. So the rainbow screen was really, we took a step back and say, if you're really looking from a customer advisor's perspective, why would they engage with us, right? And it's either because they are giving advice and they're selling a product. So we also use Bizagi to orchestrate our sales process in our advisor space. So we don't just use it from a customer servicing perspective, but in our advice space, how we deal with managing a detail, and in our sales space, underwriting is one of the modules we were speaking about just now in the break, is that we've used that together with the underwriting rules engine. We also use it in the sales space to do practice management, to make sure that once you've done those quotes, that it goes to somebody, they can approve it. So we've used it in our sales space. We're also using it now and starting to roll it out more for advisor servicing. We're an advisor. So a customer could service himself, but advisors also sometimes want to do it on behalf of customers, because obviously they can create opportunities to upsell and cross-sell. So the one thing was the one saying, okay, they come to us for advice and sales. They want money. In other words, they want to withdraw from their disinvestment, or there's a claim and they're wanting money. They want to change something. They've got a contract with us, they want to change, whether it's a personal information change, increasing that cover, whatever. There are changes that you could do in the life cycle of a contract. They're looking just for information. What's my value? When's my next debit order being raised, et cetera, et cetera. So information and inquiries. And then compliments and complaints, or we say complaints and feedback, because we hope we get compliments sometimes, and not just complaints. Financial services, it's not very easy to get a compliment, right? But we actually do get some of those, not with two-pot on social media with anybody right now, but besides that point. So we're really saying that's the rainbow screen, that's when you engage with us. And how do we deal with when you start? And I'll explain the waves that we've done just now, but from a Bizagi perspective. We said, okay, let's use Bizagi. Our choice was to use Bizagi starting in the engagement layer to enable a customer and advisor experience. So no, against all their advice, they told us go process per process. The reason we did it is we really wanted to make sure that we have customer journeys and we can meet customer journeys, because that would then enable the guardrails for how we do our processes. So therefore you could get the experience. If the customers come in and they say, oh, why is it taking so long? No, this, you could actually get experience and really understand what's happening with our customers, rolling out to branches first, so that that would be face-to-face. We could get feedback. We could, and I think Samir alluded to it too, you can very iteratively develop, so you can develop very quickly when you get feedback on it. So our choice was to say, and also because we had Bizagi as to be able to do it as the orchestration layer, a lot of the information sat in our back-end product admin systems or data management systems, etc. So a lot of the things that customers came in, we could immediately do point of contact resolution, because it was inquiries they were trying to ask, it was change my debit order due dates, etc., etc. So the way that we've designed it is to say, what can you do at point of contact resolution, because it's obviously one of our strategic drivers. Then also within a process, you could also have multiple transactions. So if we look in our experience, in one process, you could have 2.5, three transactions. Let me give you an example. You get a claim as a process, but during that claim, you say, change my beneficiary and change my bank details and then pay the claim. So what we had to build into Bizagi was prioritization of transactions to meet a process. So say, in this case, you first need to do this, and then that, and then that. So that was very important as well. So we used Bizagi to build, to do our transaction prioritization. And then the case creation. So because we've got one customer could have a death claim across 3 or 4 different product admin systems, and because of that, we needed to manage a case. And again, in that case, there would be situations where it's a claim on an investment product, you can pay it out immediately. It's a claim on a funeral product, you can pay it, but there's actually a life cover, and we need assessing on that life cover before you can pay it up. So you could actually deal with that case, tell them this is where we are with this point. So we have in-transaction communication, where you say, we've paid this claim, we've paid, this one is waiting for assessment, one assessment is done, we then pay it out. So the case management is critical in our environment because of our multiple PASs. The other thing is also around looking at requirements manage and allocation. There's nothing that frustrates a customer more than actually having to provide documentation. So we really have tried to move to a more data-driven organization, saying, what are the requirements we need? Can I get it from a trusted source? Can Bizagi call those APIs and orchestrate that process only at the last mile, hand it over to human if you need to? In that we do, so the way that we have implemented to date is that where is possible, we will orchestrate that process. Where there is a API that we can straight through process into our backend product admin systems, of course we do that, that's our first prize. But we've also got some really, really old product admin systems that I don't think they would know what an API is if we asked them, right? So for those we use robotics. What we are doing now that we finally landed the PAS, is also saying, but robotics very much, we use Blue Prism robotics, very much to do screen scraping into our backend PASs. We now are going, with the help of my IT colleagues there, is actually moving that now to using Bizagi and APIs, etc., to help to actually improve our automation rates from our Blue Prism robotics capabilities. So that's sort of the approach on what we've done around managing, and where Bizagi has really, really supported us as an orchestration layer. Am I lying? Sorry, there we go. Okay, so our approach, I think that I did cover it briefly. Alex, you should recognize those 3 little blockies on the end there, because actually we designed them many, many years ago when we started, right? But our approach when we started was really about where do we start? And as I explained earlier on, it was really about saying the engagement layer, and the engagement layer was our problem. We had no way of taking the complexity. Our call center agents, for example, would have to go into a call center front end, a product admin system, a workflow solution, etc., etc. So what we wanted to do for our branches and our contact centers, as well as for digital, is take away the complexity of our backends. So say, there's your set of requirements, this is it, give information as far as possible to increase that point of contact resolution. And then also, to capture, so if I'm doing a claim, capture the information, try and do straight through processing on it. So that's why, and that's when we did the cost benefit analysis. It was where we made the most savings. And trust me, we had very, very high targets, and we continue to have high targets around cost savings and efficiencies. So we started off with the engagement layer, first the branch. And the reason for the branch is we had outsourced our branch model, and where it used to take us 9 months to train somebody to service in a branch, we only had 5 days to train those people. So from moving from a 9 months to processing in a business to 5 days was quite a big challenge. And so therefore we had to make sure we used the knowledge management and scripting capability within Bizagi, like the next best action. There's a scripting, this is the next step, that's a scripting, so we could do guided processing in our branches. We then did it into contact centers, and then we started doing it into actually taking the end-to-end processes, again, as I said earlier on, based on volume of transaction, value of transaction to the customer and the advisor. And that's really been our approach, and we continue. I mean, we've done quite a few of them, but we've got a lot more to go. So last slide, guys. I hope I spoke fast and I caught up some of your time here again. So the last slide is, so what is critical? What have we been measured on? So as an organization, I actually said the other day, I made the joke, it's like doing business with the mafia, right? If you ask for money as a strategic investment, you better show you're going to pay it back and more with interest. Because if you don't, well, you're not very safe. So the bottom line is it was very, very stringent targets that we put in place, but what were the absolute measures and benefits that we wanted to have in place? And I think that, so I haven't put numbers, we're about to do our quarterly feedback, financial results, et cetera, et cetera. Can't really do numbers, but offline I could chat to you if you really wanted to know. But I mean, they were very, very steep targets. But what did we want to do? We wanted to reduce the cost of future change. So what we were finding is every time we add a new product, et cetera, you had to add a new product, build new processes on a workflow, build new rules, et cetera. Now it became very simple. When you added a new product, you checked what of those are processes and what are the requirements you can adopt and what are the things you adapt. And you only adapt on the component that you need to. More and more picking up, I mean, I've just come off a huge migration of migrating a risk product from one platform to the other. And we didn't really have to change anything on Bizagi. We literally did, we knew that we could use it, we would still have to use that solution. There was a couple of skills groups because some of the staff were different. But the reality is we adopted most of the servicing processes we had in our risk business. We could actually adopt when we migrated our product admin system and our money solutions. So that really proved that, and that helped to show the benefits that we're getting by actually having a proper business process orchestration capability. Again, speaking to the improvement in agility to change, we've gone, I think everybody in the world's now, the new buzzword is let's go agile or scale agile. Obviously, our mutuals on that journey too. Sometimes a challenge, some things are waterfall, some things should be agile. So, but yes, we're very much on that. So it is about doing increments of every 2 weeks you need to deliver something, and you know, I'm sure most of you are on the scale agile journey too. So really, we need to make sure that the solution that we have is agile and can scale. We'll see now how that goes in in future stages now that we've got, because I think we're still trying to figure out the relationships between us and Bizagi, come Microsoft, etc., in the new platform as a service. But yes, I think it's worked well. We just had a big implementation this weekend and everything went well, so that was great. The other big measure is increasing our customer satisfaction. So it was an improvement of our NES, which is the net effort score, and we rate that for advisors' interactions with us. And then net promoter score we use as a scoring for our customers' interactions with us. We're reducing our cycle time. So obviously everybody, especially when you go digital, you want it now. So therefore, a key measure for us was moving away from a world where we called it SLA. So how long does my service level? I've got 2 days, you've got 3, and you've got 4. To a cycle time, and how long is that customer experience so you can commit to that customer experience on your front end. The critical one was obviously we had to reduce operational expenses. So we needed to say, you know, how can you reduce the reliance on more technologies to save money there? So there's IT cost in reducing the platforms that we had, and then also people cost. The more you can digitize and automate, obviously the less people that you need, and the more you can grow. Also, we had to make sure whatever we did was easy for customers to engage with, as well as for advisors to engage with. Also improving accessibility. So at the time when we bought Bizagi, we were branch and contact center. As I said earlier on, we've now got a new advisor front end that we're building. So, you know, it's enabling that. And obviously we've gone digital. So it's really about saying, you know, by having I always call it the plumbing, because I'm saying you get that experience that comes in. It creates a case in Bizagi, so you get it from whatever digital front end or branch you get. And we call that, if we put Bizagi in branch and call center, we call it our tier 1 processing, our engagement layer. A tier 2 process equivalent to what we call a back office, right? So as long as you're consistent in your tier 2, it doesn't really matter what your front end is, and you can add, we've tried USSD, we've tried various different front ends on that, and it works because you've got your core process orchestration and management and the back end actually working. So it's just exposing those APIs to any new front end that we have. And then the other thing is really driving the automation success rates. Again, as I said, some of it is orchestrated by Bizagi, some of it is orchestrated to our back-end passes, and some of it we use Blue Prism automation to be able to get that. So that's me, very quick. I don't know if I've stunned you if you heard a word I said, but yeah, and that's me. So any questions? That's what I said, I'll catch up time for you. Like, hello, I can't speak slow, I try. I can read the slides, I've got all the details in.
Thank you very much, Lorelei. I think I didn't promise too much, saying that it's a very exciting program you ran over the last 12 years and that you achieved a lot, and you didn't promise too much, that you are a fast speaker. So you have been able to bring the content across where normal people would need 2 hours, and you did it in 23 minutes.
We have to work faster on mutual, so I have to speak faster.
The bad news for the people who want to apply for a job with Lorelei is it's also the speed she's working and her expectations that work gets done, so be careful. Do you have any questions to Lorelei? I have the microphone if somebody wants. Listen.
Using it more for your advisory or like, I guess the normal business that we know, Old Mutual for, but I've seen now that you've got credit cards and loans and all sorts of other things. So, how's that like integrating into the system?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got, as I said earlier, we've got quite a few products. So yes, we have loans for customers. So we use it in those loans that are administered predominantly on contact centers and branch. We haven't used it as an application in our loans and in our loans business, etc. We use it to be able to say, okay, you know, you have got a loan with Old Mutual, etc. But for our loan and banking business, we haven't used Bizagi. That we've really focused on using it predominantly, I'm going to call it, in our insurance arm. Now that because we've been on quite a long journey, and we've had to do, as I said, you know, quite a lot of work and automation of those processes. Now that we've embedded this, it's around saying, okay, how do we start using a little bit more of the AI capability, and how do you start using across the organization? Also, specifically, what is a key component, I think, very much to what Samir said as well, is how do you use it to enable your legislative requirements very quickly? So we use Bizagi also to deal with things like mandate management, debit order management, debit check management, et cetera, in this world, because that's becoming more and more important. So in some banking components, but for now we focus really the first implementation. As I said, we're currently in development for mandate management and debit checks, etc. But we haven't put it into our bank yet.
Any additional questions? Questions to the question or to the answer? Okay. Again, Lorelei, thank you very much.